Hey guys, how's it going? It is I, the real Randy Chavez, coming at you with a Pokemon conspiracy video. What is today's title? The Vermilion City Construction Project. I'm going to read this to you. Remember that old man on the construction site in Vermilion City? He and his faithful Machop were flattening ground for some mysterious construction project, and they had apparently been at it for years. And there's more to this tale. Everyone remembers red, blue, and yellow. That guy is there, and they're flattening the ground. You come down from you can come down from either Cerulean City or from Saffron City. You go down where that dude has that Butterfree, and you could make the left into the Pokemon Center or the right, and you can go there to this little stomping ground. Now, the story does not begin here. It begins in Lavender Town. The Lavender Town chapter of Pokemon Red and Blue was short, but it left a profound impact on the player. The music in general was amazing. Team Rocket was at it again, stealing the skulls of the Cubones in the tower. The local celebrity, Mr. Fuji, attempted to stop them, but was easily subdued and taken hostage. Now you, the valiant hero of the story, rescued Mr. Fuji and put an end to Team Rocket's nefarious plot. Now the story, although a little bit juvenile, but there seemed to be much more to it. Now perhaps it is the music that played. It sounds quite simply like fear. And there was that rumor that people heard it, and the Lavender Town suicide, people killed themselves. I'll get to that in another video. Now it lent an ambiance and intensity not present anywhere else in the game. And you can recall it with such vividness by those who grew up playing the game. It's just, it doesn't really go that way, but it's very, very close, very similar. That is almost as recognizable as the palette time. It's almost recognizable as that. But isn't it curious that for a town so dedicated to preserving the resting place of Pokemon, a mere 3 years later, when you're in Gold and Silver, they replaced that with a radio tower. Now, Lavender Town had obviously changed since the first time you traveled there in Red and Blue and Yellow. Now, when you go there in Gold and Silver, aside from the aesthetic changes, the music was now lighthearted and whimsical, entirely different in mood than the previous generation. But beneath the cheerful arrangement of the music, you hear the same haunting melody. Things were not as they appeared. You see, there was more to Team Rocket's involvement than had imagined. Lavender Town, during Red and Blue, was struggling because it was a town without a draw. It lacked a gym. It lacked anything to attract tourists. Fuchsia City had the Safari Zone. Pewter City had a museum. Cinnabar Island had a famous laboratory, etc., etc. But all Lavender Town had was a massive graveyard that was just free to visit. Its feeble Pokemart paled in comparison to the huge Celadon department store, which was easily accessible through the underground path to the west. Lavender Town was easily, in my opinion, the poorest town in Kanto. Now, what are you saying? Like Chavez, Pallet Town, where you grew up. I believe it's called Pallet Town because they have pallets of stuff there, and they also Professor Oak's lab, dare I say, has a pretty much of a draw. You can go there and get your Pokedex rated by him. It's pretty cool. Now, one day, a businessman approached the mayor of Lavender Town with a proposition. Radio was a fad that had taken the nearby Johto region, just a little bit to the west, by storm. And he proposed the demolition of the Pokemon Tower and construction of a radio tower in its place. And it would be entirely funded by the businessman's company at no cost to Lavender Town. Sounds like a great deal, but the mayor realized that this would upset the residents. Worried about re-election, you can't have something historical like this just up and ended. He might lose the re-election. Now, he also realized that this was an opportunity for prosperity, and he felt he owed it to his citizens of his town. The town was desperate. He accepted on the condition that came with the businessman's plan. The condition was that Cubones were indigenous to Lavender Town. Their skulls were extremely valuable on the black market. The businessman's condition was that his organization would be allowed to hunt the Cubones. The profits from the skulls would fund the construction of the radio tower. Who was the businessman, you might ask? Giovanni. And the mayor of Lavender Town? Mr. Fuji. The plot thickens. Now, Red was simply a pawn in the plot. He rescued Mr. Fuji in order to deflect the growing suspicion of his involvement with Team Rocket. What better way to say that you have no involvement with this nefarious plan than to be kidnapped by them yourself? And as he left the town and continued his journey, Team Rocket quickly resumed the extermination of Cubans. Now, the plan appears to be unconcerned with the souls of the resting Pokemon, but it was anything but. Giovanni is a very superstitious man himself. Remember, he is a child of Viridian Forest. Only children of Viridian Forest are able to do certain things. They have special abilities, like Yellow, like Lance of the Elite Four. The takeover of Sylph Company was done so that Team Rocket would be able to mass produce the Sylph Scopes, which would be distributed to grunts involved with the Lavender Town project. He believed that demolishing the tower would disrupt the spirits of the Pokemon inside, so he planned to construct a new tower. The bodies would be moved there to the new tower before the demolition of the graveyard would take place. It makes sense. He knew of a place that would be perfect for this new tower, right in the heart of Vermilion City. Now, Giovanni hired a small independent construction company to build this tower so people would not suspect Team Rocket's involvement. He would open up a new LLC, basically a shell company to pay them from, so no one would be none the wiser. The old man's company used a Pokemon labor force, Machops. They are very, very strong. They are extraordinarily strong. So they're able to lift big things, pallets, steel, whatever you need. Construction, however, was problematic. It suffered through a string of increasingly bizarre disasters. The funds originally allocated to the company were lost in a bank robbery. Now, these robberies, you might have seen these robbers in Cinnabar Island. That's just where I've seen them. You might have seen them elsewhere. There were inexplicable machine failures. Now, in Gold and Silver, there's a different machine. You have to find the part of the machine. It's in Misty's gym. Now, as well as the deaths of several Machops, months had passed and the project was still stalled, making seemingly no progress. The citizens of Vermilion had no idea what the construction company was intended for, and the citizens joked that it was cursed. This would explain the continuing tragedy that befell the Machops, whose attacks could not affect the ghosts. Ghosts are not, you can't hurt ghosts with physical attacks. Make the argument, if you had like a Pidgeotto or something, bird attacks can do that, but physical attacks, Karate Chop, will not affect ghosts. Nonetheless, Giovanni refused to begin the construction of the radio tower until the bodies could be transferred to the new resting place. His greatest fear was disturbing the spirits. Some of his followers came to view him as delusional, kind of the way that some followers in the Empire did not believe in Darth Vader's view of the Force. Said like this ancient magic that you yield so closely is lunacy until he Force chokes him, right? Now, he seemed to believe that the ghosts were trying to communicate with him, that he had in fact disturbed the spirits already, and he was causing their activity in Vermilion. His defeat at the hands of Red, a 10-year-old boy, validated his apprehensions that he could no longer lead an organization that expected him to carry out a plan that he now feared the consequence of. He relinquished his power and disappeared. The new leaders of Team Rocket shared few of his superstitions and apprehensions. The tower was demolished the next day, and strangely, the old man that owned the Vermilion Construction Company died the same day as well. The construction site upon that hill still remains in Vermilion City to this day. It's an abandoned, flat patch of earth, barren, deserted wasteland, except for a few tombstones under which the deceased Machops lay. The only feature that resembles the planned Pokemon Tower that never was. People that visit feel an uneasiness in this patch of land. Some even claim to hear a faint, very sad melody. Most avoid this place, but occasionally a traveler from Johto will unknowingly stumble upon it. They claim to see an old man and a Machop continuously stomping the ground flat for an important construction project. Was your mind blown? Was your mind blown? This is one of my favorite conspiracy theories ever. It makes so much freaking sense. I love it. It's like, it's one of the greatest things for me. I love talking about this stuff. Let me know what you guys want to hear. Let me know if you want me to dig into something. I mostly deal with the vintage stuff, but again, like I had the Poke Jobs, that modern stuff. Sometimes I do that too. Okay, I love you guys. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. Meow, meow.